Young man,
Hi. How you doing, John?
I'm at the top of my game, young man.
Are you? Okay.
Why not?
That's good. That's good.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And how are you?
I'm I'm okay. We've got some dealing with some family difficulty right now. My grandmother this morning, 83 years old, she had some difficulty breathing. My mom is there visiting her because she's been on the verge of going to dialysis, end stage renal disease, and so yeah, she's been there, kind of helping out and visiting with my grandmother for a while. Um, and yeah, she had some difficulty breathing this morning, so um, ended up calling for ambulance, and she lost some consciousness in respiratory distress, and they intubated her um,
Oh,
a couple hours ago, about 3 hours ago. Um, yeah, so she's on a ventilator right now, and my mom's already there, and my two other aunts and my uncle are on their way to be there.
you
So
say your sister was there?
uh, no, just my mom, just my mom. My
Okay,
my my cousin lives there too. Yeah, my
that's good.
cousin lives down there. So she's got good company. She's got family with her. Um, it sounds like she has been responsive while intubated and sedated. She had some response to their voices, which is reassuring and good. So, um, some mild response to them talking to her or playing music with her, and um, there's some indication that there's awareness to a certain extent. So, um,
Sobering.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely.
And what's her first name?
Her name is Louise.
Louise.
Yeah.
Aunt Louise.
Well, my grandma, but yeah, Grandma Louise. Yeah,
Ah, yeah, yeah. I'm getting the details a little sketchy here. Sorry about that.
that's okay. That's
Yeah,
okay.
Grandma
Here,
Louise.
I'm gonna do this. Let's use our technology here. Oh, where is it? There we go. Let's do this. Let me go here. I think that's how I do it. And then we do this. There we go. There's
Ah,
there's Granny. that was
how
uh
great.
that was when I visited with her. Well, we've been down to Florida, but she's a huge Disney fan. She was when she was a kid, she was at the opening of Disneyland in California, and
Oh,
she's a Disney huge fan, Disney everything. Um, which is why
and
she lives
Snow
in
White. I see Snow White on the T-shirt and on the
the leggings. Yeah, yeah, she's a big Snow White fan. So yeah, but so there she is. There's Granny Louise.
She born and raised in California or where?
Yeah, she was born and raised in California. Yeah, and then she did some traveling and lived in Florida, growing up in other areas. And then my grandfather was in the Navy, so they traveled a bit there too. Lived in Florida while he was in the Navy and California. But yeah, they retired, or not retired, but they changed careers after the Navy and everything, and ended up living on having a farm in Montana. And so
Really?
yeah, so Western Montana,
Oh,
and I got to live with them for some of my years growing up. So yeah.
you were in Montana,
Yep.
and then you also were in like Saudi Arabia or someplace.
Yeah.
Qatar.
I did. My mom remarried when I was in my teens, and I was 13. She remarried, um, and her husband at the time, he retired Air Force, but he had a pretty high level master's level education in training development, manpower, human resources, that kind of thing. And he was recruited by a company over in Saudi Arabia. So I got to live there for 2 years, and quite the experience.
Montana and Saudi Arabia.
Right? Yeah,
You might be the only person in the world that's lived in both places.
that's funny. It's probably true. There's not a lot of people that I knew in Montana ever that said they lived in Saudi Arabia. But yeah,
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 that's amazing.
yeah.
Well, more power to Grandma Louise.
Yes, thank you.
You're just gonna sit there and sort of wait for updates and what
Yeah,
her
I mean,
prognosis
you
is.
know, at this point, yeah, I was trying to get a sense from my mom about the prognosis, and I said, are we looking at a situation where you and the siblings are talking about comfort measures and whether to keep her on on ventilator support? She's okay for intubation, but she is no compressions. Do not compress, whatever. Yeah, she won't go through full CPR, but she's okay with intubation and artificial nutrition if that's what's necessary. But yeah, her living will and advanced directives are pretty clear not to do full CPR. So yeah, um, so yeah, I don't. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of sense in which direction. Um, I was a little you can relate. My mother was talking about the fact she said the chaplain was there to visit while they were in the ER, and she was waiting for the ICU bed to transfer. And I kind of me being a nurse and working in the hospital and acute and emergency room environments myself. Um, there's a sense of things being pretty dire, grim, possibly when you hear of social work counselors and chaplain being referred or recommended for family and their processing. And I definitely appreciate a low threshold of getting them involved early, even when it may turn out to be a better than expected outcome. But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's also one of those like those flags where you're just like, oh, shit's getting
Well,
serious.
some
So
people react that way, but I'll tell you, as a chaplain, I went into every situation of a new person arriving on the scene. I didn't, in the hospital setting, I didn't say, well, are they dying? Because if they are, I'll go there being the chaplain. And if
right,
they're not, then I'll hold off. It was never like that. It was always
right,
just a new person's here, go greet them.
yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah, absolutely, yeah. And again, yeah, it's kind of that whole, you know, uh, well, let's put it this way: is the Grim Reaper in the room? Kind of things,
Exactly.
yeah, yeah. Is is the loved one seeing angels? What company is there with them?
Yeah.
Yeah, aside from the physical mortal kind. Yeah.
When was she born? You said 82 or 83?
A3. She's born in January. January.
2042? I mean, 1942?
That sounds about right. I'm trying to do the math myself here. 43, 42. Yeah. Yeah, 42. So, yeah. Yeah.
Well, wow. Okay. Well, you're in all of our thoughts and prayers. I'm sure all
Thank
the
you.
people who will wind up watching this during the next 2 weeks. We'll be thinking of you also.
Yeah, thank you. And if there's any comments or later viewers watching in, I'll I'll put some updates in the chat with Granny Louise.
Yeah,
Yeah,
nice.
yeah,
Yeah. All right.
yeah.
So, what else is going on with you? That's pretty much enough, huh?
Yeah, we're busy, you know. We just got done with the basketball tournament that we traveled to Lewiston, Clarkston, Idaho, or Lewiston, Idaho, Clarkston, Washington, about 2 hours away. We were there for 2 nights, 2 days. My daughter played in the basketball tournament. It was busy there, you know, being away from home again. Always feels like, you know, you go from work to family, personal life, busyness, and yeah, it was fun. It was a lot of good memories, a lot of good bonding experience for my daughter too. They
Yeah.
played a lot of fourth graders and their third graders, so
Oh,
they held
yeah.
so they held their own pretty well playing against fourth graders. They won 2 out of 4 games they played and ended up in ranked out of the 8 teams. They were fifth. But you know, I think about it and I'm like, gosh, you know, every time I watched and I saw them just battling and going toe to toe with some of these players and these teams, I was had to remind myself they're third graders and this is their first year playing together. So yeah,
That's cool.
yeah, that was good.
That's
It was fun.
cool.
So
Did you watch the Super Bowl?
I did. I started it. I watched through halftime. Um, I think I stopped watching when it was like 27-0. And I thought, well, you know,
Yeah.
the Chiefs might put some points up on the board, but I don't think they're going to fully stop the momentum. And actually, my wife and I switched and we started watching some other show that we were watching. So
Oh, yeah.
we
Yeah.
didn't
Well,
finish it.
I was at a Super Bowl party, so I watched
Okay.
until it was. I made $20 in gambling.
Oh, the squares. Did you do the squares?
No, what we did was a Kentucky Fried Chicken bucket,
Oh.
washed out for the occasion. I would put $1 in, and you put it around the room. It rotates, and when you have the bucket on your lap,
Hmm.
and the team wins, team scores, either team, you get the money that's in the bucket.
Oh, cool. So yeah, so they passed it around. How long does it take to pass it around?
Not long because there was only let's see here, 7 of us adults.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
so I won 4 times.
Nice. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. I didn't mind coming home $20.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's not bad. That's fun. I mean, it makes watching the game, especially when it's not your teams or anybody you have
right.
a big, you know, passion for. You're just like, what am I watching for? Other than it's the penultimate, you know, the two best after a year of watching and fanning over football teams. You know, what is that? What do I have to show for it? You know, so like, well, I guess I'll
Exactly.
watch the Super Bowl and be there in full spirit.
Right,
Yeah,
right.
no, it's good.
Um,
I am you know, I don't really care for either team. But I was not on board or not excited about a three-peat, you know.
right,
So you know, the better team won in this case, and they did it without
definitely.
the person who put up record number yards doing record number of stuff. So they showed that they actually aren't just a one-trick pony. So yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yep,
yeah. I was cheering for the Eagles too, vaguely.
yeah, right, yeah, yeah,
Yeah, vaguely. I didn't care. And then I did like the halftime show.
yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know a lot of Kendrick Lamar music, and I thought it was very artistic expression, creativity. I thought it was good. Um, I you know I like rap. I mean, I do. But I can't say that I've followed a lot of rap music in my 30s and 40s.
Right.
Most
Yeah.
of what I like of rap is what I liked when I was in my teens and my 20s. But no, I could definitely appreciate what he did and how he did it, and his talent and ability. So I
Yeah.
didn't have any grief or problems with any of it. I thought it was a good show. Um, yeah,
I like.
I'm not like it's not gonna go back in my memory and history books of like, wow, remember that amazing one? Like I still think of Snoop Dogg's show a few years ago, and I'm like, that was awesome.
My
But
favorite one was Prince.
oh, Prince, yeah, that was a good one. That was a good one too.
Yeah.
So
But I'm gonna watch this one again,
yeah,
Kendrick Lamar, because I was in a room full of people talking.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, I didn't get to. Well, I wanted to talk about today. We're going to talk about uh, Nora Bateson, but before we do, I want to talk about an idea that I had over the
Oh,
last
okay.
2 weeks for coping with the atrocities that are happening in our government.
Oh yeah. Um,
You know, we
yeah.
now are at the verge. You know, I was thinking about this a week ago, and here it is already here. What happens when the court says, you're not, you can't do this, or you have to do that, or something? They order something.
Right.
Trump loses a case, and Trump says, "No, to hell with it. I'm not going to do it."
Right.
And we're
Yeah.
there. It's they're challenging it now. Some
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of things that have been. I mean, you could talk about a lot of things that are really shocking, really just mind-boggling. And I agree with you. I think where we're at is probably the scariest part, and that is we do not have a checks and balances, three branches of government that essentially keeps our democracy stable. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean,
So it's so I came up with one thing on my own, and another thing I'm sharing that I heard from someone else.
hmm
The thing that was on my own and I came up with was to take 2 Sabbaths per week. By Sabbaths, I mean where from midnight to midnight, I am avoiding news on Trump
mm,
and Musk
yeah,
and the whole fiasco.
right.
So it's liberating to have. Yesterday was one, and back on about Wednesday was the first one. It's
hmm
liberating to just not turn on the news, not turn
right.
on Blue Sky, um, not go to Yahoo,
Yeah,
whatever your sources are,
right.
and just keep your mind fresh of it,
Yeah,
free of it.
no, I'm glad you said that because I find myself needing to do that too. Like,
Yeah.
just sort of like, don't even, put the phone aside. Don't, yeah. Because, but, and it's really hard because you want to be informed. And then there's this part of me that says, well, if I don't soak this information up and I'm not informed, then am I enabling? Am I complicit? And you know what I mean? We talked about in previous episodes and past about um, waging nonviolence and you know kind of calling to action. And it's like, well, on the one hand, it's being informed to know what it is you're being called to action for, to to put your energies, efforts into, and truly evaluate them in an informed way. And you just want to avoid, some of this stuff, like just looking at the comments in my local news of people who are now accusing of the local newspaper of being propaganda because they seem to be posting an article about everything Trump is doing. It's like, well, they're posting about everything Trump is doing, and all of their news is saturated with it because he's doing a lot of things. Like, I'm sorry that you don't like the fact that 20 out of 25 articles are about the president, but the president is doing things that often that is
Right.
newsworthy. Um,
Yes.
yeah, it's not like, you know, they're
Well, I think about Seven Habits of Highly Effective People, which I only
ah
partially read.
yeah.
Did you hear about that book?
I know that book. Can I recite? No, but I been has the doctrine of it been brought to my attention in multiple career paths? Yes. Seminars, uh, in service trainings. We have some modules that we can go through and do the Seven Habits program through the VA. Federal government has a partnership where you can do it. But yes, to your point, I would say that it intersects in lots of ways with common business practice and principles.
Yeah, and the one, keep your blade sharp.
Hmm. Yeah.
That's what I'm getting at.
Okay.
Um, it to rest, to drink your coffee and your tea. I have my black
Yeah.
tea every day. Drink a lot of water. Get your exercise on a nearly. Oh, look at you drinking.
Yeah.
Um,
Good.
you know, get your sleep. I'm a little, perhaps a little drowsy here on the screen today because I didn't get to sleep until about 3:30.
Oh,
Um, um, but to get your sleep, to get your exercise, to drink your water, and to take 2 days away because you can catch up the
that's
next
true.
morning.
That's
You
true.
know,
Yep.
and besides, it's kind of like at this point, it's like more of the same. It's
Yeah.
like, and now Trump has decided that you can go to a zoo and hunt for the animals that are in the cages.
What the fuck?
I made that up. Yeah, I
Okay.
made that up. But
Uh,
it's like a comedian said that. He
oh.
says, and they're going to use the Grand Canyon. They're going to use the Grand Canyon for landfill.
Oh, geez. Yeah.
uh,
Um.
it's
Yeah. I
it's
don't
just
know. And
it's just absurdity after absurdity.
I was telling my wife. I said, I think this might actually become real, or maybe it was a fake news thing. I don't know. But you're right. Like the amount of fake news and real news, it's really hard to differentiate because you're like maybe. But one of the things I recently heard is that there might be a ban on on paper straws. There might be an executive order coming out to ban paper straws because they don't work. And I was like, is that a real story? Is that really going to happen? Or, yeah.
I heard that like 5 years ago in the first Trump administration.
Hey, it might be the next executive order then.
He
We'll
doesn't like he doesn't like paper straws. He wants us all to have plastic straws. That came out in the first administration. I was
yeah, yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an order for it then.
what a what a buffoon.
Oh,
Secondly, um,
so keep
so
your
I had
blade
two
sharp.
ideas, and this one I think I got from elsewhere, but I can't name who it was. I'm when it came down that Musk had access to all of our financial information
Mm-hmm.
in the Treasury Department. You know that
Yeah,
part.
yeah, yeah.
Um, I called 22 senators
Oh,
and 4 congressional representatives, urging them to impeach Trump.
okay,
And impeachment means getting him out of office.
right.
And also, at the same time, they got to bring down Musk and arrest him. You
Yeah.
know, and I made that my project. Now
Mm-hmm.
that I've done the calls, I'm just going to focus on my 2 senators and 2 congressional representatives. I have one, but I used to live uh, 20 miles from here,
Oh, okay,
and I had a different congressional representative who I like far more than the current one. So I call both of them,
okay,
and so every day I make at least one call.
okay.
I heard somebody say make 6 calls a day. I I'm just not going to do that.
Yeah.
It seems extreme. That means calling each senator twice and your representative twice. But today I called Ron Johnson,
Hmm.
who is a hardcore right winger who flew to the Kremlin um, about 6 years ago on the
Oh.
4th of July and got his directives on whatever from Putin. And
Hmm.
so I called him today and I said, "Hey, Ron, I just want to say that I was talking to Rena, his secretary. You've got to vote against the United States annexing Canada.
Oh, yeah.
That's utterly ridiculous. There's something that's as hallowed, sacred in our thing, which is um, that every nation state has its independence.
Yeah.
You know, you don't you don't act like Putin taking over the Ukraine.
Yeah. No. No. Nope. That's not who we are. I the fact that that's even possibly going to be a situation where you have to ask them not to vote or to vote no. I mean, the idea of having a vote is just is asinine. I mean, it really is. Yeah.
It is, but
Yeah.
he brings it up
Yeah.
regularly. I've heard him bring it up twice in the last 6 or 7 days.
Well, not only that, but wouldn't I? And I don't know procedures with British Parliament and whatnot, but aren't they? Wouldn't they? Wouldn't that have to go through the UK as well? I mean, you can't just. Yeah, I don't know the political and the structure
You
of
mean
government
Canada?
in which Canada and the UK are are tethered. And I don't, but I
Oh,
believe there's something in which the UK has a hold. So that not only would Canada have to be involved, but the UK would also have to be involved with that
I
decision.
didn't know that. But
Yeah,
I mean, the whole is so ridiculous. But
yeah.
tomorrow I'll make another call. And I just that's part
Well,
of the. Go
and
ahead.
here's the thing that is always concerning when I hear these things and gets people in an uproar about it. Um, what is this misdirection? What's happening in the left hand while the right hand is directing us to look at this completely asinine scenario of annexing Canada? Um, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's
Speaks
plenty
a
of
lot
other
of
things that are happening at the same time, which other elements could be a distraction for. Um, you know, the labor board. I mean, the fact that we don't have a labor board that can hear union grievances at the highest level. Um, you know, that's, I mean, at the same time, Amazon, Tesla, companies who are in big, uh, I would say major controversies with unions or attempting to unionize. And right now, with those moves, there's not a lot that unions can do. I mean, to fight for their worker rights. So, um, I'm
It's
part
a
of it.
hostile takeover of the United States, man.
Yeah, yeah,
It really is. It really is.
yeah.
Yeah, when I called all those senators and representatives, I said, with regards to the Treasury Department, I said they've given all of our financial information to a Nazi sympathizer,
Right.
plain and simple.
Yeah.
It's the biggest scandal of my 67 years of life.
Well, and here's the hypocrisy of it. For I don't know, it felt like at least a couple of years the the far right was obsessed with Hillary's emails on a private
Yeah,
server. But
yeah,
an official of the United States who is a government, employee essentially, having a private or a personal hard drive, an email server, and now we're talking about an oligarch that does not have any background clearance, not even a naturally born citizen of the United States, um, and they're okay with that. The double standard, the hypocrisy is just
yeah,
enough for me to be disgusted. So
yeah. Same here.
yeah,
Same here.
and that's not to
All
say I
right.
even agreed with the whole private email server thing either. I'm like, come on, people, get it
I
together. Like,
agree.
you,
I
you know,
agree. Everybody has
confidence.
to be.
Yeah, everybody has to be held to a same level of accountability and standard, which is there to protect Americans' rights. Like, yeah, yeah.
All right. Well, would you like to hear a poem?
I would love to. I think so. I think I need to. Yeah, is there fumes coming off me? No. Oh,
So I have five favorite poets, you know, and this is one of them. Naomi Shehab Nye. I think of her as young, and she turned 73 this year.
mm,
I think of her as young because she was young when I first learned about her. But time passes for all of us. Palestinian American. She lives in San Antonio. And this poem is called Shoulders. And when I read it a week and a half ago, I said, that's the next poem.
okay.
Shoulders. A man crosses the street in rain, stepping gently, looking 2 times north and south, because his son is asleep on his shoulder. No car must splash him, no car drive too near to his shadow. This man carries the world's most sensitive cargo, but he's not marked. Nowhere does his jacket say fragile, handle with care. His ears fill up with breathing. He hears the hum of a boy's dream deep inside him. We're not going to be able to live in this world if we're not willing to do what he's doing with one another. The road will only be wide. The rain will never stop falling. End of poem.
I like that.
Do you?
Yeah.
You're frozen. Your image was frozen on the screen for a minute. So you're like this.
Oh. Oh, interesting. Sorry. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So
Isn't that
give
a
me
beautiful poem?
that was beautiful. What I just want to make a quick reference to it. I was spell give me the title again.
Shoulders by
Shoulders.
Naomi Shehab Nye.
Got it. Okay. Naomi Shihab Nye. Perfect. I'm gonna
I
drop
think it's a
that
really,
here.
I
Yeah.
think it's a really good meditation. What'd you say?
Oh, I was just gonna get a drop a little link for
Sure.
viewers to check it out in the comments.
I think it's a really good meditation for
Yeah.
where we are nowadays. Carry one another.
Right.
Hmm.
Put that in the chat here. Okay. Yeah. No, I like that. It's very Yeah, it's beautiful.
Good. All right. So
Fragile.
now,
I like the fragile handle with care.
yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think, I'm thinking, I don't know about you, but I've been thinking for a year, most days, how are we going to handle, well, the meta crisis,
Right.
but the possible dissolution of the United States,
Mm,
you know?
yeah.
Um, so for me, taking 2 Sabbaths a week, taking care of myself, figuring out what it is that I can do, sticking to that. So I'm doing a podcast with Nic Davis. I'm doing um, homeless work with Street Angels, homeless outreach,
Yeah.
and I'm harassing senators and uh, congressional representatives.
Oh, I'd say being just a squeaky wheel,
Yeah.
I don't know about harassing, but yeah, you're not
Yeah.
on like a watch list or anything. You're just kind of the a little voice on the shoulder.
There you go. I'll take that.
Yeah. Yeah. Um and at some point, yes, what will be the point in which the pendulum swings, the support swings? Will it? I don't know. But I do think the work that you do, and that we attempt to embrace and talk about here with our live shows, our podcast. Things like this poem. The messaging is, we have to. I think we do a good job of being consistent in that we are in this together. We are all brothers and sisters. And part of the same tribe and community of Americans. And there definitely needs to be grace on both sides. And I want to hear or see or experience and feel more of that. And right now, I feel it's hard to find, and we just need good reminders. And so, whether that's you know turning to your local sphere of influence and shutting out the noise of everything else, like Sabbath, from social media, from news, um, whatever form that takes. I definitely think you're right. You got to have balance of what it is you spend your mental, emotional, uh, time currency on. So, yeah.
Amen. All right. I've got a little bit, we've been talking here, but I've got a little bit of Nora Bateson to take us to.
Okay. So yeah, for those of us joining for the first time, that would or following up on previous sessions, we were talking. Yep, there we go. Nora Bateson combining.
This cover was made by her husband, Mats. He's a avant-garde wallpaper designer.
Oh, I
And
can definitely see where that looks kind of like not a wallpaper you'd want in your whole house, but definitely a little
yeah, right.
accent somewhere. Yeah, it's got some wallpaper esque styling to it.
Yeah, Swedish wallpaper guy,
Okay,
and so she's got his wallpaper all over the book.
gotcha.
It was kind of fun. And this is going to be me reading to you, which I don't always like to do but it's just so perfectly written and said.
There's a trend going on in the world and social media right now, and we should probably tap into that. And maybe, I don't know, we got to throw some hashtag or something out here, right? It's called book talk. I don't know if you've heard of book talk. TOK, Book Talk. So individuals will go on to TikTok and they will give book reviews, or they'll do excerpts and, kind of talk about a book or why they recommend it or what their thoughts are. Kind of a little review on a social media platform. So it's very popular, very trendy, with a lot of audiences. So whatever the not liking to do, I think, rest assured there are people out there where this is a desirable thing to hear people read, and talk about books that have an influence or impact on them. So
That's why I'm doing it, because
that's
it's
right.
trendy.
Well, and not just because it's trendy, but there is a niche, there is an audience for this.
Good.
So
We're going straight into the niche.
the book talk.
Book talk niche. Okay. Um, so this is really, really interesting. When you were in high school, did you hear about the lifeboat ethical dilemma?
mm, no, I always had the one with the train and the car and the train's tracks was splitting and the car here, and those ones. Is it similar in that
I
making a
don't know that
decision,
one.
making a
I'll
decision
read.
which way the train goes?
Oh, yeah, that sounds probably about right.
Okay.
I'll read this to you, and you can kind of bounce off of it. As can our three. We've got three listeners.
Okay.
Hello, three listeners. I know we've got Mary, and then there's two others, and I've got some buddies who now are getting on here every week.
Nice.
The crises of the moment. I'm reading Nora Bateson. Do not need further description here. Suffice to say that the complexity of the overlapping crises of inequality, health, justice, technology, ecology, and culture are producing emergencies that the institutions of the last centuries cannot contend with. How will the next decades play out amidst these crises? More important, what is possible for societies around the world to learn in the process? Now I'm going to skip a couple chapters, a couple paragraphs, but then she's going to get to the lifeboat story.
Okay.
The cold version is important that we highlight that because she gets back to it. Garrett Hardin, 1974, introduces an old metaphor in which a lifeboat is featured as a way to ponder the mathematics of survival. The thought experiment is explored through the lens of the ethical distribution of resources. It has been applied to overpopulation, immigration, natural resources, food supplies, and more. High school students are often given this lifeboat ethic as an introduction to how hard decisions at structural levels are assessed. In the story, 50 people are in a lifeboat that can hold 10 more people, but there are 100 people in the water.
Mm-hmm.
It appears that approximately 90 people will be left to die so that any of them may survive. The project then becomes a collection of difficult but necessary questions to justify how the remaining 10 people will be selected to survive. I remember doing this in class.
Mm-hmm.
Who will choose who lives and who dies? What are the criteria for these choices? How will the ones who are on the boats be fed? Is cannibalism a possibility? And then she put in parentheses, really, this is one of the questions.
Mm-hmm.
Then she says, these, period, are, period, cold, period, questions, period. The above questions are laced with the thinking of eugenics. They're
Oh,
carrying the darkness of a world in which some people's lives are measured with icy objectification, and some are justified as disposable. There are
right.
questions that provide us with information about the conditions of the prevailing systems that create the conditions for those sorts of questions to be asked, considered appropriate, and acted upon. And right now, those conditions are cracking.
Mm-hmm.
The sort of approach, this sort of approach begets cold lines of reasoning and responding. Perhaps it is an extension of the same coldness that has justified the exploitation and extraction of people and natural resources over the last several centuries. Willingness to objectify by assigning numeric metrics has allowed the illusion of control and management to infect even valiant environmental and social activism efforts. Is it possible to respond with a warmer approach?
Mm.
In another version of the lifeboat story, like the first, we start with 50 people on the boat, 100 in the water, and 10 more seats. This time, the people on the boat start figuring out how to make it work. They improvise, learn, and tap into the complexity of themselves and each other as a source of unlimited possibilities. And I'd say this phrase, unlimited possibilities, is pretty much the theme of the first 30 or 40 pages of her book. In the warm data work, this is referred to as lifeboating in direct contrast to Hardin's version of the story. People are not numbers. Those 100 people in the water are not bobbing numerals. They are human beings with histories, experiences, cultures, and languages. They are complex. Numbers are just numbers. They cannot source possibilities from each other or find a way when the basic arithmetic says there is none. People can. Abstracting the solutions to numbers inherently dehumanizes and unnecessarily constrains the spectrum of possibilities. The metric logic removes the human breadth of experience and relationship. This cold calculation flattens the scope of the thinking. We know that if one of us were in the water with 99 other people, each of us would find a way. This is the magic of being a living organism. The quote from the film Jurassic Park says it clearly: life finds a way.
Mm.
People are not roles. I'm going to have to skip some of this, but I'll read about 3 more paragraphs. A word of warning: collaboration can quickly become a mechanistic allocation of effort according to roles. Alternatively, as it is in life, the living response is one of incalculable and often surprising alternatives that the reduction of the original question to simple arithmetic completely obscured. The quantitative decision eliminated the multiplicity of contexts. The quantitative decision eliminated the multiplicity of contexts, while a warm approach invites them back into the relationships. This is not a matter of assessment of who is good at what and assigning roles according to expertise. On the contrary, finding a way in this situation is about the unique possibilities that occur in the relationship between particular people in that particular water on that particular specific day. There's no formula, no method. The realm of possibility is access to a sentiment of human care and imagination. Perhaps some people would take turns swimming. Maybe others would tie clothing together to pull people. Possibly some would hold others' hands and pull them. Each grouping of people would, of course, have a different, particular set of characters and histories that provide their own potential responses. We are capable of different things depending on who we are with and what they are finding themselves capable of. Capacity cannot be front loaded, it is emergent. But it is possible to front load a basic perception of self, others, and the world that assumes the inherent multitude of stories and draws from them. With care and imagination, the possibilities are endless. I'll skip a little bit and then go to the solutions to the situation are entirely contingent upon detail. They are accessed spontaneously, iteratively, and simultaneously. They are as infinite as the combinations of people. The cold questions are distracting. Possibility in the warm lifeboat story depends upon the likelihood that people will see each other in solidarity to find a way. If they ask questions about the cold numbers, they'll be worried about who gets to live and who is chosen to die. In life, this looks like polarizing societies with each group vying for position in the distribution of resources.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this colder version generates a sentiment through which the situation is approached. This time, the sentiment is infected with the logic of decontextualization and dehumanizing metrics. And then she says, I'll skip down a little bit again. Um, the dark history. As it turns out, there is a reason this type of approach feels so cold. The creator of the lifeboat ethic, Garrett Hardin, was a eugenicist, nationalist, and white supremacist. Hardin was an important figure in the history of environmental solutions, especially known for his popularizing of the idea of the tragedy of the commons. The history of his eugenics and nationalistic thinking has been known all along. It was never a secret. But those ideas and the sentiments under them came to set the tone for how the response to complex crises is imagined and managed. And that is something that requires a sobering wake up, learning, and new attention to the ways in which that genre of thinking sneaks in. Hardin was not the sole promoter of this thinking. Instead, his work is indicative of a culture of thinking that resonated with eugenics. Ironically, adopting a warm data approach to the culture reveals the receptivity to cold ideas.
Mm. Wow.
Was that too much reading?
No, no, it was fine. I, yeah, I think that did, as far as understanding combining, well, and also this idea of warm data, which is really big in Nora
Mm-hmm.
Bateson's um, teachings, writings. I mean, missions, objectives, whatever you want to call it. I hadn't really thought about those ethics sort of logics conversations. What I do remember in those examples, such as in high school or in college ethics classes, was ultimately nobody could agree on a right answer because
Yeah.
no right answer actually exists. Like that's
Yes.
the reality of it is there is no when you put it in there, you're talking about numbers or this and the values, but that's just one way of thinking about it. Even in that one way of thinking about it, it's very difficult to have a right answer. Um, and strictly a numerical, quantitative situation. Then you throw in, all the other sensitivity things of, what is this person? What have they done? Who who are they responsible for the care of versus this individual who doesn't have offspring or children or a spouse. Like then you get into all those other parts of it, and it's like, but you're saying because they have these that they're valued better more in society, but really that's not true either. You
Right.
just start uncovering all these untruths, um, even when you try to be very objective about it. You keep running into trying to solve an unobjective problem with objective methods.
Yeah, exactly.
And
Exactly. Exactly.
then I think about, okay, let's just imagine a real life scenario that you and I are both in this situation, whether we're in the boat or we're swimming around or not. And I just imagine, and this is what gives me hope and a sense that, we're still not lost. We're still, as a humanity, still salvageable. Is that I do see in the heat of the moment people coming out of out of the woodworks to find solutions, to think about things this way, um, and then the ones who stall or halt this collective group of people who are looking at the warm aspect of it, of, we don't have time to sit here and debate over this person who's got 3 kids that depend on them versus or this person who's a doctor that saves lives, and this one is, just food service worker. You don't have time for all that. You just basically do what you can to start rallying and helping and problem solving, and getting as many people to safety as possible. And some people think outside the box. Some people are going to think back to the objective cold data. And what I envision is the people who are the objective cold data types are more likely to be the ones who sabotage the warm approaches, because they're so firmly set on there's a mathematical cold objective method for this, and you guys are trying to um, you're trying to appease too many, you know what I mean? And so
You're
it's
being
almost as
too
though
woke.
yeah, so that there's this sense of, oh well, we can't possibly have something that really helps more than what the calculable formula says we can have, and you're going to put it all at risk, and we're going to have nothing because everybody's going to die if you do this. um, and those are the ones that sabotage the
Yeah.
the collaborating, the coming together, the seeing each other as equals, even though they themselves may not be the type of person who sits there and says, oh, people are equals. But in that moment you see the true colors, the uh, true natures.
Yeah.
So I think that's what's as you were talking about that scenario and her descriptions, I just see that there's a lot of good true natures, and then there's a lot of true natures that go cold. And how do you work, and how do you thrive in a society where those who go cold are the loudest speakers or the loudest actors that
Yes. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah. It's a conundrum wrapped in a mystery.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I can tell you, I'm reading this book for the second time now. This time, just 10 pages a day because I don't want to just fry my brain to an egg. Uh, um, Going through it the second time though, it's sinking in a little bit more.
Mm.
So I'm thinking about I go into a store and the um, I go to not a mega store, but I go to a privately owned, mom and pop type store to
Okay.
do my Valentine shopping, so to
Oh.
speak, or to
Mm-hmm.
do any other sort of shopping, birthday. And the proprietor comes forward, can I help you? And as of really digging into this book a second time and also watching her a few YouTube things, I'm now thinking also this person is a person with a life history and all that goes into it, and I'm meeting her on this particular day, and there is some kind of potential for some sort of interaction in this conversation today.
Mm-hmm.
That if we were in a lifeboat situation, we would possibly use
Right.
insights that I don't have that she has, that I have that she doesn't have. And then everybody else, the other people that are in the store that are wandering around looking at the items, you know.
Yeah.
It's just marvelous. It opens. The next week we're going to talk about her getting lost on a bus in Buenos Aires
Oh,
with
okay.
her two little kids and no money.
Wow.
And what happens? And
Okay.
what did she learn? And it's very similar. It's a
Hmm.
similar. The ultimate thing is that there's inherent possibilities if we can stay away from sort of um, paradigmatic thinking, cold data thinking.
Right.
You know, okay, there's one size fits all solution to this situation. Um, it works in all contexts with all people. You know,
Hmm.
no, she crossed that out, and she was alert to the unique nuances of that day, and safe
Yeah.
to say, because she was able to write a book that mentioned it, she got home safely.
Right. Well, and I think I can already I can already speculate as to what some of that discovery is, and I think that's what's interesting is that when we look at talking about politics and or online messaging boards or comment sections, people really are, especially now. I feel like there's some empowerment to speak and to you know kind of be insensitive or be cold about certain things. And um but at the same time, I could see several of these people being the type who, if a car, you know, tumbled over the side and hit a tree and it was smoking, about to be on fire, they're not at all concerned about the fact that they are, the same person they were belittling on the message board is in this car right now, and they feel nothing but empathy and compassion and are willing to put themselves in harm's way to extract them from the vehicle. Like, you know, if you are that kind of person who's willing to go to extreme lengths to help your fellow person in times of need and help and vulnerability, why belittle them because um, they're feeling hurt and you know a sense of they're fearful of say a political executive order. um, and yeah, I just see like people who are genuinely good people who would do the right thing in the right situation, and yet putting others down on chat boards or comment sections. And it's like, this is not who we are, who they are. Yeah. you know
It's the truth.
so well, another episode, another week, 2 weeks since we do this. So if anybody's tuned in, thank you for joining us. We don't do this
Yeah.
enough. We don't do enough shameless self promotion. But if you're watching this now, later, please subscribe. We are trying to get everybody to the Brambled Path um, YouTube channel. So, if you're watching this from Nic Davis narrator voiceover, please try to check it out in the future on the Brambled Path. Much more curated content for what John and I do here versus my, digital content creator narrator voiceover page. So, we'll continue to promote that everywhere you see us promoting. To go to the Brambled Path. So please subscribe, and get notifications so you can see us next week in 2 weeks. Looking at what is
And
that?
tell a friend
Report.
if you like us.
Oh yeah, please tell a friend.
Hmm.
We absolutely appreciate your time. We know that attention, time, and all of your emotional energy is a valuable commodity, and we're grateful for any of that you share with us. So, thank you all. Thank you, John.
Wonderful to be with you, young Nick.
Thank you.